Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Tuesday, September 14th. I'm Gary Stevens. It is the second Tuesday of the month, which means at this time we have a chance to catch up with what is going on at the Holland Museum on 10th and River in downtown Holland. And to do so today, we have on our Zoom connection the museum's executive director, Ricki Levine, along with the Education and Community Programs Manager, Michelle Stempien. Ladies, good morning and welcome back, both of you, to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary.
Good morning.
Good morning indeed. Michelle was the second voice you heard. Ricki was the first voice you heard. And if you have a question about what's going on at the museum, they'd be more than happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. By the way, the museum is closed today. But that's because it normally is closed on Tuesdays. Museum's only open 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And yes, COVID-19 health protocols are in place, so please mask up when you are in the building. And yesterday was the Free Monday. So again, our segment comes after the Free Mondays, but don't worry. The next one will be coming up on Monday, October 11th. 4 to 7 p.m. is when the museum is open to the general public for free. Chance to sample what the museum has and maybe consider a museum membership. We'll talk about being a member of the museum a little bit later on. Michelle is always happy on this particular subject. We'll begin with that because indeed the Smithsonian Spark Lab had been silent for so long because of the outbreak, but it is now back and there are some new activities, Michelle, involved with that. Why don't you let us know about this?
Sure. So Spark Lab, thinking kind of capturing our upcoming fall season, we've come up with some new activities, including people can use materials to invent a harvesting device and actually harvest small apples in the museum on these little trees. It's really fun. So new activity for us and for our public, and it should be lots of fun. We also have, some opportunities to design your own machinery, but kind of working on this fall theme that we wanted to play with this fall. Now,
the Spark Lab is open when the museum is open, but not for the entire time. Explain a little bit on that, Michelle.
Sure, because Spark Lab is, we have to have either staff or volunteers in there. So with the public, so we aren't open all of the hours that the museum is open. And in fact, actually I have a slight change because we are switching some of our hours for the fall, just because we want to capture some of our back to school audiences. So we're doing some changing of our hours from our summer hours. So Saturdays, the Spark Lab will be open while the museum is open from 11 to 3. That stays the same. But on Mondays and Fridays, starting September 24th, we are going to be switching from 11 to 3 to 1 to 5 p.m. so that we can capture, bring the kids down after school gets out and be able to hang out in Spark Lab until we close at 5 o'clock. So starting September 24th, our hours will change from to 1 to 5 p.m. on Mondays and Fridays.
One other thing about the Spark Lab thing, Michelle, is the fact that we touched upon this a little bit earlier this summer, is when the Spark Lab reopened at the museum, it also had the opportunity for a Spark Lab to be traveling in the area and be part of activities over the summer. Is that still going to be moving forward right now?
We do. We can go out to places. And in fact, we actually are going to, on September 25th, we are actually going to be in Grand Rapids at the Confluence Festival in downtown Grand Rapids. We are going to have a table and some of our Spark Lab activities available for people. So come and visit us at the Confluence Festival in Grand Rapids on September 25th.
616-395-1450 is our number if you have a question about what's going on at the Holland Museum. A fundraiser is coming up. It's a virtual fall fundraiser, Ricki, Levine, and it involves our friends over at the Dykstra Funeral Home. Tell us all about it.
It does, Gary, and this is really exciting. It's our second Preserving Our Stories fundraiser. The first one we did earlier in the spring, and it was about the Fabiano family of the Holland Peanut Store. And this one, as you said, is Dykstra Funeral Home's 120-year history. The Klein Hexel family, who's been running it, the third and fourth generation are now running that operation, owned by the third generation. And it's a fascinating story about the family in the business itself. It's been such an important part of our community's history. Funeral homes obviously have such a need, but the Dykstra Funeral Home in particular, because it's family-owned, multi-generations, it really has an important story to share, and I think everyone will be fascinated by it. And to participate in the fundraiser, you buy a ticket, and you get a goodie bag, and it'll have some local goodies in it, and you get to have a live conversation with a couple of members of the family, but more importantly, there's a video that really talks about their stories. And actually, Dorothy Klein Hexel, who's the matriarch, will be part of that video program, as well as Dar Klein Hexel, Craig, and Court.
Now, and when there's a situation such as, you know, the Dykstra Funeral Home's anniversary, sometimes the museum reaches out, or maybe in this case, maybe Dykstra reached to the museum and said, you know, we have some stuff, we can help you out, and it's sort of like a joint venture in that regard.
You know, actually what we've been doing, since we had such a great response to the Fabiano story, is we've been starting to talk to family-owned businesses in the community, multi-generational family-owned businesses, because we feel our responsibility is capturing those stories. So we didn't have very much of the Fabiano family or the peanut store in our collection. Same thing with the Dykstra Funeral Home and the Klein Hexel family. And so this is a way for us to actually acquire some items in the collection, their stories. And with their stories, we also have fabulous photographs of some of their artifacts. And in the case of the Dykstra Funeral Home, they go back to the early 1900s, some of these photographs, or we've taken pictures of some of the artifacts that they already have on their premises. So it's a combination, but I think what we're trying to do is really share the stories of the people and the businesses that have made this community what it is.
Ricki, I would think one of the things to me it would be very interesting to see is dealing with hearses and the horse and buggy ones early on, and then how the hearse has changed over the years. I know that in many cases now there are a lot of memorial services on the site of the funeral home, and we don't see the long procession of a funeral like we had done in recent years. But still, the evolution of the hearse certainly would be somewhat fascinating as well.
And it is part of the story that we've captured. We actually spent over 3 hours with the family videotaping their story. We're condensing it for this fundraiser, but that full history is going to be part of our collection that people will have access to. But interesting that you mentioned the horse and buggy. Very often, ambulances and liveries were part of what a funeral home did, and that's true of the Dykstra Funeral Home too. So we will be talking about that history. Glad you brought that up, Gary.
And the other thing too is the fact this is a fundraiser. So yeah, when I say tickets are $100 or $150, you're going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, now that's beyond me." But then again, it's a fundraiser for the museum. So yeah, we are talking three figures in that regard there, Ricki.
Yeah, and the fundraiser is really intentional. It's for our education programs, which really includes the things that Michelle's working on, Spark Lab, but also our exhibits and our programs that are educational for all ages. The night of the fundraiser, we actually raise money for our community outreach education initiatives. So that would include getting a bus. if you can get a bus driver, but getting a bus of students from a local school to come to the museum. And these are schools that don't have the budget to be able to do it entirely on their own. So we will transport the children and the teachers to the museum or to the historic homes, give them a tour, give them some sense of the history in our community. And we will do that by helping fund that for them with this fundraiser. So it's really all about education. That's what museums really are about. And we're doing it deliberately to reach as many in our community as we can.
616-395-1450. If you have a question for Ricki Levine or Michelle Stempien, they are with the Holland Museum. It's our monthly update of what is going on at the museum. Let's talk about the major exhibit that is going on right now, United for Progress, the La Oop story. It started in August. It's going to run through after the first of the year. Michelle or Ricki, either one of you can certainly tell us about a very good story in our community, Latin Americans United for Progress.
But I'll start off because I want to tell you the origin, the genesis of the exhibit, and then I'm going to let Michelle dive into it a little bit deeper. But when I started with the museum, which is now going on 4 years, I met with the interim director of La Oop at the time. His name Ed Amaya. I've been involved with La Oop for many, many years. You may know him. He's a well-known member of the community. And I told him I really knew very little about La Oop. And during our conversation, I learned a tremendous amount about the organization and the history. And I said to him at that time, I said, you know what? Most people outside of the Latinx community are not familiar with what La Oop has done for the community, for the people in that community, meaning the Hispanic Latinx community, but also how it's impacted the greater community overall. And I said, it's a story that others need to know about. So that's where it all began several years ago. We started having the conversations, and it's developed with our committee, and it's developed with the research that's done. And I think Michelle can talk a little bit better than I can about what's actually in the exhibit.
Sure. So it's in our focus gallery on the main floor of the museum. It's a wonderful space, and it is filled with all kinds of incredible pictures of programs and excuse me, initiatives that La Oop has been involved with for so many years. We also have images of historical documents that really tell the story of La Oop and the impact that they have had in the community. There are artifacts from the Queen competition, which is a major initiative that they were involved in to really uplift young women in the Latinx community. So it's just a wonderful space. You can really interact with the objects, and we are actually asking the community, if you recognize someone in one of the photos and we don't have them identified, to please write their name on a sticky note or make a comment, and actually you can put that right on the wall. So because we really want people to interact with the objects and the images that are on view, and weave that fabric of this incredible story of this organization who has meant so much to Holland, who have had such an impact.
And the word, you mentioned it, Michelle, interact. And I know we're talking, 19 months on, but something, it's been a while since we've had the word interact, and not virtual interact.
Right. So we really do want people to come down and see the objects in person and have that opportunity to, again, we have an action station, a reflection station. We want to hear your thoughts about the exhibit, and if La Oop has impacted your life personally, we want to hear that. We want to know. And if they haven't, what are you going to do to become more involved with La Oop and the Latinx community? How can you become an ally? So we have a station in the exhibit where we really want to hear people's thoughts when they come in and see the show.
It is United for Progress, the La Oop story. It's at the Holland Museum from now through January the 17th. Now, there are some programs and events coming up, and maybe the person that I should be asking is the person who is also the manager for Education and Community Programs, Michelle Stempien. Tell us a little bit about an insider look at corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, we are super excited about this program. It's this Thursday, September 16th at 7 o'clock. This will be on Zoom. And people who are interested can register through Eventbrite, through our website. Go to the Holland Museum website, and there'll be a link to sign up for this program. It is free. This is a program that is part of our continuing Cultural Lens series. And we are featuring Joe Matthews, who is he is a VP over at Gentex, but he is also their first diversity officer, and he's had that role since 2018. And so he is really going to be sharing advice, information, his expertise, his experiences about creating a diverse and inclusive corporate culture. So if you are in business and this is something that you are interested in and want to bring to your business, this would be a great program to tune in for and really learn from Joe's experiences and his knowledge.
Now, the next program is not Tales from the Crypt. Not from the old TV series of the 1990s, you know, with the Crypt Keeper and looking weird. It's actually Tales from the Archives. No. I'm not going to dress up as the Crypt Keeper for this, but it should be a lot of fun, isn't it?
It should be, and we are very excited about this. This is a new series for us. This will be the first program, which we hope will become a regular offering that we have at the Holland Museum. So this program is Thursday, September 23rd, and also at 7 o'clock. And we are going to have this on Zoom just because we want to keep everyone safe out of just being cautious at this point. But this is a series that will be focusing on local history. So especially people from our community who have maybe done some research into our local history using the Holland Museum collection and its archives to learn more about the community and the history of Holland. So for this first program, we are featuring Jeffrey Reynolds and Dave Brooks, who are two local historians. Jeffrey will be talking about the important role that Holland had in building military vessels for World War II. And Dave Brooks will be talking about the genealogy and family history of Sarah Tolk, who was the only person to perish in the 1871 Holland fire. And as we all know, we're coming up on the 150th anniversary of that event. So that will kind of lead us into October. So sign up again through our website, find the link, sign up through an Eventbrite, and come and join us for an evening of really great local history and conversation with these two historians.
More on the Holland Fire in a moment, but there is another program in between. Many people remember Chris Burke, the actor with Down syndrome from the television show Life Goes On. We have seen more and more the awareness of those who have been stricken with Down syndrome and the families who love them. Meant to Be, Loving Down Syndrome. It's a family program coming up on October 7th. Tell us all about it.
Yes, and this is part of our Cultural Lens series, and we want this to be a family event, and it will be free, and hopefully at this point will be in person on Thursday, October 7th at 6:30, and we will have Caitlin Herringer. She is a Holland resident, and she is the author of a children's book called I Am Me. And she is also mother to Jameson, or Jay, as they call him, who has Down syndrome. And so the story talks about just celebrating the unique person that each person with Down syndrome is. And so the author, Caitlin, she will read the story. I Am Me, we will be reading it in English and in Spanish. And then we'll have a family activity afterwards, and also question and answer and conversation. So we hope people will come and take part in this program. And this program was made possible with encouragement by the Down Syndrome Association of West Michigan.
And finally, we are going to have a program dealing with the 150th anniversary of the night America burned. Yes, everybody talks about what happened in Chicago. Don't forget, Holland was involved, although not directly from Chicago. The circumstances, the night was certainly good for that type, unfortunately, of situation to occur.
Yes. So yes, October 8th and 9th is the 150th anniversary of the Holland Fire, which took place in 1871. So we are having an event on October 9th, which is a Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. And this would be included with museum admission. We will be conducting tours, walking tours of areas around the city that were affected by the fire and telling those stories. The tours will be at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And then in between those tours, we are going to be doing some readings in the museum of firsthand accounts. So written by people who lived through the fire, telling the story of what that was like. We're going to be reading some of those for the audience. And then also we have a special display. We always have objects on display in the museum and the history galleries that survived the fire, but we are actually bringing out more objects that are in our collection that survived. And so we will have a special display with some additional information about the fire, including a timeline, kind of taking us through the events and how it unfolded. So people can learn more about this really significant event in Holland's history and how we recovered from it.
Yes, many fine programs, many fine events, many fine exhibits at the Holland Museum. And very briefly, how can people be involved with the Holland Museum in terms of membership?
Well, I'm going to jump in here. So membership is an easy way to get involved with the museum. It supports the museum, but better than that, it gives you access to all of our programs and all of our exhibits. So there are 3 levels of membership. Real basic, $35 includes an individual. You can always bring a guest. You can bring a different guest every time you come and enjoy the museum. Family membership, $50, includes 2 adults and all children under 17. And then our premium is $125 and includes 4 adults and children under 17, but you become part of NARM, which is the North America Reciprocal Museum Program, which allows you to go to museums all over North America who are participating in that program without being charged admission. So think about all the great museums in Chicago, for instance. You'd be able to get into quite a few of those without having to pay admission.
For more on how you can be a part of the Holland Museum, go to hollandmuseum.org. Ricki, Levine, Michelle Stempien, thank you very much for joining us today. Look forward to chatting with you guys again next month.
Thank you.
Gary.
And that is a Holland Museum update on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.